February 1258. A man walks through a building he once believed was eternal. It is his treasury. Guards walk beside him, but they are not his guards. They are watching him, not threatening, not hostile, just watching his face. He passes stacks of gold he never spent, coins that paid for silk, not steel, bars that funded poetry, not fortifications, wealth that grew while his walls aged and his soldiers went unpaid. Behind him, his city is already burning. Ahead of him is something worse than fire. This is the Caliph of Baghdad. In a few hours, he will be dead. Not by sword, not by arrow, not by anything a king would expect, because the men who took his city did not conquer through chaos. They conquered through design. And what they are about to do is not simply execution. It is demonstration. For 5 centuries, Baghdad had been the center of the world's thinking, not a capital of territory, a capital of knowledge. This was the city where Greek logic met Persian astronomy, where Indian mathematics merged with Islamic law, where medicine, engineering, philosophy, and theology were cataloged, preserved, and expanded. The House of Wisdom alone contained texts that would require lifetimes to read. Al-Khwarizmi formalized algebra here. Physicians here wrote medical manuals Europe would not translate for 400 years. Students traveled from Spain to Central Asia just to study within its walls. Baghdad was not declining. It was functioning. Its population exceeded 1 million. Its canals moved water beneath the streets. Its hospitals treated patients regardless of wealth or belief. Its markets connected China to the Mediterranean. This was not an empire in collapse. It was a civilization at its operational peak. And ruling over it was not merely a king. The Caliph was the successor to Muhammad, spiritual authority over millions, legitimacy stretching back nearly 40 generations. Al-Mustasim inherited that title in 1242. He also inherited something else, a state that had been weakening for 200 years. The Caliphate still commanded religious loyalty, but its military was mostly hired, its governors mostly independent, its wealth concentrated, its defenses neglected. Baghdad had survived weakness before. It had outlasted rivals. It had watched empires rise and fall around it. So when reports arrived of horsemen in the east, Baghdad listened and waited. The Mongols were not raiders. They were not an army. They were a system, refined across half a century of continuous warfare, across deserts, mountains, tundra, and forest. When Genghis Khan died, he left behind not just conquered land. He left behind a method, a way of turning war into a repeatable process. And that process was now moving west. In 1253, Hulegu Khan was given a single directive: secure submission from every state between Mongolia and the Mediterranean. Not defeat. Submission. Because the Mongol Empire was not built on occupation. It was built on compliance. Cities that submitted kept their rulers, kept their markets, kept their lives. Cities that refused ceased to exist. Every target received the same message: submit, pay tribute, send hostages, acknowledge Mongol authority. Refusal brought no threats, no immediate response, just silence. Weeks would pass, then months. Then the horizon would fill with horsemen. The army would not charge. It would encircle every road, every gate, every escape route. Then construction would begin. Siege engines assembled in full view. Engineers from China and Persia working beside Mongol soldiers. Machines built specifically for that city's walls. Then a second message would arrive, identical to the first: this is your final chance. Most cities surrendered then. Those that did not became examples. By 1257, Persia was filled with ruins that had once been cities. and now the system turned toward Baghdad. In September, Hulegu's envoys arrived. 3 writers. 1 letter. Submit. Dismantle your fortifications. Send your sons. Spare your city. Refuse, and learn what the others learned. The Caliph convened his court. The vizier urged submission. The general argued Baghdad was unconquerable. The theologians argued God would protect the seat of Islam. The Caliph believed his position was protection. He dismissed the envoys. He ordered nothing prepared. He continued his routine. So the system advanced. In November, Mongol scouts appeared east of the city. A small force. Baghdad's commanders saw opportunity. They marched out with 20,000 men. They chased what looked like a retreat. It was a trap. Hidden flanks closed in. Baghdad's cavalry was erased. Not defeated. Eliminated. By nightfall, fewer than 3,000 returned. Baghdad had no field army. In January, the Mongols encircled the city. 150,000 soldiers. Fortified camps at every gate. Supply lines secured. Escape impossible. Siege engines assembled in daylight. The defenders watched their walls being measured. Calculated. Targeted. A final message arrived. Open the gates. Disarm. Spare the population. The Caliph hesitated. The bombardment began. Not randomly. Precisely. Stones struck the same points again and again. Microfractures formed. Walls weakened. On February 5th, a section collapsed. The Mongols entered in formation. Block by block. Sector by sector. On February 10th, the Caliph surrendered. On February 13th, he walked out of the city. He brought his court, his sons, his ministers, unarmed. He was received politely. He was asked one question: "Where is your treasury?" He showed them. They opened it. Gold, silver, silk, jewels, enough wealth to fund armies, enough to have saved the city. He was brought back inside, walked through his own hoarded fortune. No one needed to speak. Then he was wrapped in a carpet and crushed beneath horses. No blood touched the earth. His sons were executed. His line ended. His dynasty ended. His world ended. For 13 days, Baghdad was dismantled. Skilled workers were spared. Everyone else was removed. The house of wisdom burned. The canals were destroyed. The city was deliberately crippled. Then the Mongols left. They left survivors, because memory was part of the system. Within months, every ruler knew what had happened. Not just that Baghdad fell, but how. After that, cities stopped resisting. They submitted before the Mongols arrived. Because Baghdad had become a lesson, the Mongols stopped being an army. They became a warning, and warnings travel faster than soldiers. Baghdad survived, but it never recovered its place. The knowledge was gone. The scholars were gone. The center moved on, but the memory remained. A record of what happens when authority mistakes itself for power, when tradition confronts systems, when titles face tactics, when belief meets procedure. Some empires are destroyed. Others are demonstrated. Baghdad was demonstrated, and demonstrations echo longer than victories. This is Crimson Historians, where history is not comfort. It is pattern, and patterns are how you see what's coming.